वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. So verse 15. नर्माणि नर्माणि उदर रुचिर स्मित शोभितानि हे पार्थ हे अर्जुन सखे कुरु नन्दनेति सञ्चल्पितानि नर देवहृदि स्पृशानि स्मर्तुलुठन्ति हृदयं मम माधवस्य.
Hare Krishna. Translation. O King, his jokings and frank talks were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles. His addresses unto me as O son of Pritha, O friend, O son of the Kuru dynasty, and all such heartiness are now remembered by me, and thus I am overwhelmed.
Verse 19. Saya sanatana vikatana भोजनाद्वेष ऐक्यद्वयस्य ऋतवानिति विप्रलब्धा साख्या सखेव पितृवत् तनयस्य सर्वं सेहे महान् माहितया कुमतर अगम्ये.
Generally, both of us used to live together and sleep, sit, and loiter together. And at the time of advertising oneself for acts of chivalry, sometimes if there were any irregularity, I used to reproach him by saying, "My friend, you are very truthful." Even in those hours when his value was minimized, he, being the Supreme Soul, used to tolerate all those utterings of mine, excusing me exactly as a true friend excuses his true friend, or a father excuses his son.
Verse 20. सोऽहं नृपेन्द्र रहितपुरुषोत्तमेन साख्या प्रियेण हृदयेन शून्या अध्वन्युरुक्रमा परिक्रमा अङ्गरक्षं गोपेरसत्भिर्बलिवा विनिर्जितोऽस्मिन्.
O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I have been defeated by a number of infidel cowherd men while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna.
Verse 21. तद्वै धनुस्त इषवा शरतो हयस्ते सोऽहं रतिनर्पतयो यत आनमन्ति सर्वं क्षणेन तदभूदसदद् ईशरिक्तं भस्मं हतं कुहक रथम् इवोक्तमूषयम्.
I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them, at a moment's notice, have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter on ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on barren land.
Verse 23. राजं स्वयनुप्रस्थानां सुहृदं न सुरत्पुरे विप्रशापविमुक्तानां निगतनामस्तभिर्मितः वरुणिं मदिरं पीत्वा मदोन्मत्तितचेतसम् अजानतम् इवान्योऽयं चतुःपञ्चवशेषितः.
O king, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all become intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice and fought among themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now, all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone.
Verse 24. Prayena tad bhag prayena tad bhagavata Ishwarasya visestitam mito nignanti bhutani Bhavanyanti chayanmitaha.
Factually, this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. Sometimes people kill one another, and at other times they protect one another.
Verse 25 and 26. Chalokasam jale yadvan mahanto danti aniyasaha durbalan balino rajan mahanto balino mitaha evam balistaya dubir mahatbir itaran vibuhu yadun yadubiranyoyam Bhuvaran Sanjaharaha.
O king, as in the ocean, the bigger and stronger aquatics swallow up the smaller and weaker ones, so also the supreme personality of Godhead, to lighten the burden of the earth, has engaged the stronger Yadu to kill the weaker and the bigger Yadu to kill the smaller.
Verse 27. Desa kalartha yuktani hartapopasamani cha haranti smaratas govinda vihitani me.
Now I am attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of Godhead Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space.
Verse 28. Suta uvacha evam chintayато jishnu Krishnapadasaroruham Sauhardena Tena Santasid Vimalamatihi.
Sutta Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which were imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination.
Verse 29. Vasudevangri Anutyana Paribramhita Ramsaha Bhaktya Nirmati Tasesha Kasayati Sanorjuna.
Arjun's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion, and as a result, all the trash in his thoughts subsided.
Verse 30. Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattad Sangrama Murtani Kala Karma Tamoruttam Punar Adyagamat Prabhu.
Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case, and again he became lord of his senses.
Verse 31. Visako Brahma Sampatye Sanchinnadvaita Samsayaha Lina Prakriti Nirgunyad Alingatvad Asambhavaha.
Because of his possessing spiritual assets, The doubts of duality were completely cut off. Thus, he was freed from the three modes of material nature and placed in transcendence. There was no longer any chance of his becoming entangled in birth and death, for he was freed from material form.
Verse 32. Nisamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadukulasya cha Swaha Pataya Matim Chakre Niprartatma Yudhishthiraha.
Upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaja Yudhishthir decided to go back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you, Prabhu. Forgive me for any of my mistakes.
Not at all. Not at all. Fantastic. Ilavasani Mataji was very nicely recited. You were very thoughtful about the pronunciation and recited very nicely. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
Alkaben, nice to hear from you. Nicely
you.
recited in English. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm going to switch the screens here so we can just go to these verses. So today we're going to read 20 and 21. So before we switch to the PowerPoint, we just recite them from here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 15, text number 20. I'm just trying to think the meter for this one. The meter that is saying quite nice as well. But the meter that normally fits onto this verse is the Brahmasamhita meter. Soham Nipendarahitam Purushatamena Sakya Priyena Surida Hridayena Shunya Advani Ukrama Parigraham Angarakshan Gope Asagdir Abaleva Vivejitosmi. Synonym, Sa, that, Aham, myself, Nipa Indra, O Emperor, Rahita, bereft of, Purusha Uttamena, by the Supreme Lord, Sakhya, by my friend, Priyena, by my dearmost, Suhrita, by the well-wisher, Hridayena, by the heart and soul, Shunyaha, vacant, Advani, recently, Urukrama Parigrama, Urukrama Parigraham, the wives of the all-powerful, Anga, bodies, Rakshan, while protecting, Gope, by the cowards, Asadbi, by the infidels, Abala Eva, like a weak woman, Vinijitaha Asmi, I have been defeated. Translation and purport by Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I had been defeated by a number of infidel cowherd men while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna. So before we move on to the purport, just a few things in this verse. It is interesting how, for a friend, Arjuna is using three beautiful words. So Sakhya is my best friend, Priyana, my dearmost, and then Surida, well-wisher. So in English, we have like one word, friend, but Sanskrit, you can see how deep it is. And this is just a few, but there are so many different words for the same sort of relationship. But each one is different. So Sakhya is like a base, my friend. Priyana, dearmost, is a very, very dear friend. Priyana. See, also one thing about pronunciation, notice here, if there's a dot underneath the N here, then that is an ana, it's a soft noun. not Priyana, but Priyana. And so that's Priyana is my dearmost. And Surida, so by the well-wisher, because it's said by the well-wisher, Surida. But Surida is the closest friend, actually. Surita is somebody who is always wishing well for you. From his heart, he's always wishing well for you. So we all know all our friends are not always at all times, but they must be wishing well for us at some point. But friendships are generally in the material world based on give and take. And in the sense that, I'm your friend because I can get something out of you, and I can give you something like that, similar. That goes with any relationship in the material world. But Surida is like the closest friend. It's one person that you completely trust. You know wishes well for you. So even if you disclose the most intimate detail about your life, you know that he will not betray you. That's Surida. So that's interesting. And then the other one is Asadbi, in Prabhupada describes it by the infidels. So the word infidel is used sometimes in Islam, isn't it? When somebody was a non-believer, they call him infidel. Even in Christianity, I believe, it's used infidel. So we have people who are non-believers in that sense, non-believers, like coward boys, Asadbi, infidels. In this meaning, it means that they were not very powerful. They were ordinary people, infidel, meaning they didn't belong to a Kshatriya. They were just basic coward boys, that they didn't have any Kshatriya skills. But they still defeated Arjuna. It's Abala. Abala, we use that word in Hindi as well, Hindi, Gujarati also. Abala means, Abala would mean not just a woman, but somebody who is a dependent, somebody who is always needing somebody's aid. So we here, Prabhupada says, like a weak woman, but abala, we say abala nari. Abala nari means somebody who is vulnerable. So in that case. So yeah, interesting words that has been used in this verse. So now purport, we've got just one big, medium-sized paragraph. So somebody could just unmute and read this, please.
Could I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Krishna, you must go ahead, please. Thank you.
The important point in this verse is how it was possible that Arjun could be defeated by a gang of ignoble cowherd men, and how such mundane cowherd men could touch the bodies of the wives of Lord Krishna, who were under the protection of Arjun. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has justified the contradiction by research in the Vishnu Puran and Brahma Puran. In these Purans, it is said that once the fair denizens of heaven pleased Astavakra Muni by the service and were blessed by the Muni to have the Supreme Lord as their husband. Asvakra Muni was cursed in 8 joints of his body, and thus he used to move in a peculiar curved manner. The daughters of the demigods could not check their laughter upon seeing the movements of the Muni, and the Muni, being angry at them, cursed them that they would be kidnapped by rogues, even if they would get the Lord as their husband. Later on, the girls again satisfied the Muni by their parents, and the Muni blessed them that they would regain their husband even after being rode by the rogues. So, in order to keep the words of the great Muni, the Lord himself kidnapped his wives from the protection of Arjun. Otherwise, would have at once vanished from the scene as soon as they were touched by the rogues. Besides that, some of the gopis who prayed to become wives of the Lord returned to their respective positions after their desire was fulfilled. After the departure of Lord Krishna, he haunted all his entourage back to Godhead, and they were called back under different conditions only. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishna Mataji. We'll move on to the next verse, which is 21. Tadvai dhanus ta ishava saratho hayaste soham rati nipatayo yata anamanti sarvam shanena tad abhut asat ishariktam basman hutam kuhaka radam ivoptam ushyam. What that word? Tat, the same, Vai, certainly, Dhanu, te, the same bow, Ishava, the arrows, Saha, this very same, Ratha, chariot, Haya, te, the very same horses, Sah, Aham, I am the same Arjun, Rathi, the chariot fighter, Nipataya, all the kings, Yata, whom, Anamanti, offered the respects, Sarvam, all, Kshanena, at a moment's notice, Tat, all those, Abhut became Asat, useless, Isha, because of the Lord, Riktam, being void, Hasmam, ashes, Hutam, offering butter, Kuhaka, Radham, money created by magic feats, Eva, like that, Uptam, sown, Pushyam, in barren land. Translation and Prabhu. I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them, at the moment's notice, have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter on ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on barren land. So once again, beautiful analogies are given in Bhagavatam and many places. So here, something is useless as offering clarified butter. So instead of pouring the ghee on the fire, if you pour it on the ashes, there is no use. Nothing will happen. When you put the ghee in the fire, then fire gets bigger. But if you put the same ghee in the ashes, nothing happens. Same with accumulating money with magic wand. So that is like, dummy money. You can't actually get money from magic wand. So that again makes no sense. It's like almost we could say monopoly money. We would say in our sort of current slang. And sowing seeds on barren land. If you put no matter how much more, how many seeds you sow in the barren land, it's not going to fructify. So continue with the purport. It's a shorter purport. Shipper Mataji, you were unmuted. You want to
may I read it, please? Okay.
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. As we have discussed more than once, one should not be puffed up by borrowed plums. All energies and powers are derived from the Supreme Source, Lord Krishna, and they act as long as he desires and ceases to function as soon as he withdraws. All electrical energies and are received from the powerhouse, and as soon as the powerhouse stops supplying energy, the bulbs are of no use. In a moment's time, such energies can be generated or withdrawn by the supreme will of the Lord. Material civilization without the blessings of the Lord is child's play only. As long as the parents allow the child to play, it is all right. As soon as the parents withdraw, the child has to stop. Human civilization and all activities thereof must be devoted with the supreme blessings of the Lord. And without this blessing, all advancement of human civilization is like uh, decoration on a dead body. It is said here that a dead civilization and its activities are something like clarified butter on ashes, the accumulation of money by a magic wand, and the sowing of seeds in a barren land. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shipper Mataji. Yes, nice to read. The last one doesn't have a purport because these two verses together no purport. Rajam Nistayanu Pishatata Rajam Trayanu Pishatana. No, it's a shorter with a message. Rajam Traya. Now, 1 second. Rajam Trayanupishtanam Suridam Nasutah Pure Vipras Shapa Vimudanam Nignatam Mushtibir Mitaha Varunim Madiram Pitva Madona Madhita Chetasam Ajanatam Ivanyonyam Chatu Pancha Vasheshita. Synonyms: Rajan, O king, Tvaya, by you, Anuprishtanam, as you inquired, Suhridam, of friends and relatives, Na, our, Surith Pure, in the city of Dwarka, Vipra, the Brahmanas, Shapa, by the curse of, Vimudanam, of the befooled, Nignantam, of the killed, Mushtibhi, with bunches of sticks, Mitha, among themselves, Varuni, fermented rice, Madiram, wine, Pitva, having drunk, Mada, Mahita, yes, Mahita, being intoxicated, Chetasam, of that mental situation, Ajanatam, of the unrecognized, either like Anyonyam, one another, Chatu, 4, Pancha, 5, Avestita, now remaining. Translation by Shipapa. O king, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all became intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice, and fought amongst themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now, all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Tapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sadhajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavaitam Savatutam Parigana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vikhari Shakhan Vitansha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Chari Swami Niti Namine Snigdha Cheta Supra Meta Vagvinam Sarasaputram Prabhupada Gata Prana Nami Bhakti Chari Pada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Charine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Parshada Veshapari. Prabhupada ki jai. So yeah, let's see what we can dig out of these 3 verses. So, Pandavas retire timely. That's the title of this particular chapter. We will just revise the verses so far. 1 to 6, Arjuna's strong feeling. So Arjuna's return back from Dwarka. Questions have been asked by Vishnu Maharaj, and he's now been replying. And this first 6 verses talk about his strong feelings of separation from Lord Krishna. 7 to 17, Arjuna recalls the favors and protections, all the pastimes that he had with Krishna, all the things Krishna did for the Pandavas. Arjuna is remembering there. And this current set of verses 18 to 23, Arjuna feels void in Krishna's absence. So we just quickly do the, mind you, we just done the English. We'll just quickly do the English anyway, just to remind us. So in text 20, Arjuna is saying, "Oh Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I have been defeated by a number of infidel cowherd men while I was guarding the bodies of the wives of Krishna." 21, I have the same very Kandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna, to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Krishna, all of them at the moment's notice have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter on ashes, accumulating money with the magic wand or sowing seeds on a barren land. 22 and 23. O King, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all became intoxicated with the wine made from putrefied rice and fought among themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone. So we just, as we normally do, we will just go through the purport bit by bit and see what we need to go here. Purport starts, the Prabhupada starts the purport saying that the important point in this verse is how it is possible that Arjuna could be defeated by a gang of ignoble cowherd men. Prabhupada changes the word here, infidel, now it's ignoble. The meaning there, ignoble means somebody who's not worthy of much, They were not really that powerful. Ignoble cowherd men, and how such mundane cowherd men could touch the bodies of the wives of Lord Krishna, who were under the protection of Arjuna. So this is like a question that we could ask ourselves. So Srila Prabhupada, as he does normally, as we know, all his purports, Prabhupada has taken from the commentaries of previous acharyas. So, acharyas have given us extensive commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada has done all the hard work for us. For all those years, Prabhupada stayed awake in the small hours of the night to translate. And he used to refer to all these translations so that he would take the cream of it and give it to us. So we are so fortunate, because we wouldn't have the time to go through all the commentaries of different acharyas. And don't forget, a lot of these commentaries have not been translated. They're still in Sanskrit. So we would not even have access to it. But Srila Prabhupada, so mercifully, he slept 1 or 2, maybe 3 hours at night, and rest for time he was translating, and he was referring to these wonderful acharyas. So we're getting the cream of the knowledge from all the acharyas through Prabhupada's books. So he is quoting Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this purport. So he was a very powerful, as we know, he's a very powerful acharya sampradaya. Some say that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was an incarnation of Rupa Goswami himself. That's why he was so learned. So he did a deep study of all the commentaries of the Goswami's books. And he wrote many, many books, and also compiled very nice bhajans. And one of the bhajans that he has compiled, we sing daily. Can anybody guess which one it is? That bhajan we sing daily, every day we sing in the temples.
Samsaradava.
That's it, yes. Thank you. Samsaradava. I didn't see the name there. Who was that? Palika Mataji. Yes, thank you, Palika Mataji. Samsaradava. So that was compiled by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And if you see all temples of ISKCON all over the world, we sing that every day in the morning, remembering him. So yeah. Okay. So he's saying that he gives us nice pastime or deep understanding about how things happen. He he refers to the time when the demigods, uh, daughters of demigods, they pleased Ashtavakra Muni by the service, and they were blessed by the Muni to have the Lord as their husband. So this was step one. So the daughters of demigods, they pleased him, and he then gave them that boon. But then the daughters, being very young girls and a little bit childish, they one time were laughing at the way Ashtavakra Muni was moving, as is explained in the purport. It was bent in 8 places, so you can imagine it was moving in a very strange way. So that when they were laughing, then he cursed them that they will be kidnapped by rogues. Because he'd already given them the boon that they will be married to the Supreme Lord. Now he says, even though you will be married to the Supreme Lord, you'll be kidnapped by the rogues. So that's why this pastime happened like this. This is what Vishnu Chakra Thakur is explaining. And then again, later on, the girls satisfied the Muni again by prayers, and the Muni blessed them that even though they would be kidnapped, that they would regain their husband once again. So yeah. So in order to keep the words of the great Muni, the Lord himself kidnapped his wives from the protection of Arjuna. Otherwise, they would have, this is for the purport actually, they would have vanished from the scene as soon as they touched. Because who can touch the wives of the Lord? Who would have the guts to even touch, or the ability to touch the wives? So there's no way. So it is explained that Lord himself came as those rogues. Of course, the Lord can expand himself into many personalities. So he expanded himself into the rogues, and he himself just to basically keep the words of a true devotee. This is always the case. There are many examples how Krishna will make sure that whatever action he takes, he will keep in mind the words of a devotee. He doesn't want to break the promises that a devotee has made. He doesn't mind breaking his own promises, but he doesn't want to break a devotee's promise. So there's a verse I was looking at 7:8-17 where this is explained. This is actually in the 7th canto, just talking about the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj. So in this case also, when Prahlad Maharaj, that will be explained, let's see in the first part, in the translation. So this one says, Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu satmana adrashyata yabhuta rupam udvahan sambe sabhayam na virigam na manushim. I got my meter wrong here, but doesn't matter. So here it is said that to prove the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of the assembly hall, the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality Godhead Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never seen before. The form was neither that of a man or that of a lion. Thus, the Lord appeared in his own wonderful form in the assembly hall. So the Lord, of course, the Lord is everywhere. But the Lord himself in this form, he presented himself just because, as we know from the past time, when the father was really frustrated with Prahlad Maharaj. And whenever Prahlad Maharaj is speaking about the Lord, we must, respect the Lord. And Prahlad, his father, Hiranyakashipu, once got really mad. He said, always going on about the Lord, Lord. Where is your Lord? Where is he? Is he in this pillar? And Prahlad Maharaj says, yes. So he then smashed that pillar. So the Lord, he wasn't in the pillar in that form. The Lord, of course, is there as his energy. The Lord exists in everything that is in material as well as his material energy. But he then appeared from the pillar just as the Lord himself, just to prove the word of his pure devotee. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is also explained. that the words, the devotees' words will never fail. A devotee will never be defeated. Chipram, how does it go? Chipram bhavati dharmatma shashvasantim nigasanti. Kuntai kontaya pati janihi namme bhakta pranashyati. He says, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. This particular verse follows the verse 930, where the Lord is saying that a pure devotee of the Lord, even he makes a small mistake, sometimes he may commit a mistake or even a sin. But if he is on the path, if he remains on the path of devotion, then he should be considered to be saintly. And then he's saying in this verse that he will become righteous quickly and attain lasting peace, and that the devotee never perishes. So other examples we can see, and the example we saw about was, who is this? We all know that, Hiranyakashipu. So the promise here is, whose promise is he keeping here? Whose promise is he maintaining? Anybody? By killing Hiranyakashipu in a particular way. Sorry, this is Narasimha.
Brahma.
Lord Brahma, exactly. Lord Brahma gave the boon to Hiranyakashipu. So to protect Lord Brahma's boon, he then killed him in this way, not on the earth, not in the sky, on the land, not with a weapon. He used his nails, so not a weapon, not by a man, not by an animal. So he was not an animal, not a man, not in the night, not in the day. So it was Sandhya time. Not outside, not inside. So he was on the doorway like that. So many promises he kept. So the Lord is always there doing that. And then anybody know who this is?
Ravana.
Ravana. So Ravana was also killed, and he was given the boon by
Lord Shiva.
The boon not be killed by Shiva, exactly. Shiva gave the boon. His boon was also protected. So the Lord came as, because Ravana in his arrogance, he didn't ask for protection from a human being. So the Lord came as a human. The Lord then took an avatar as Prince of Ayodhya, and he killed him like that. So again, keeping the promise of Lord Shiva there. And this one, the picture, I couldn't find any better pictures here, but this is a little bit rare. Anybody know who that is? The clue is 1,000 arms.
Is it I forget his name. Kartarjuna.
So actually, he also had 1,000 arms. You're right, actually, Panchali Mataji. He also, Kartavya Arjuna had this is not him. This one actually is Banasura. So Banasura, he had, because he pleased Lord Shiva, because of the boon of Lord Shiva, he had 1,000 arms. And later on, when Lord Shiva was doing his Tandava dance, then at that time, Banasura played musical instruments with all his 1,000 arms. You can imagine how beautifully that he must be. Different instruments in different pairs of hands, and he was playing that. So, and Lord Shiva got very pleased with him, and he offered him another boon. And he says, okay, the boon he wanted at that time was that you would protect my city. He was the king of a particular area, and the city, the capital was called Shonitpur. Then at that time, so he had a daughter, he had a very pretty, very beautiful daughter called Usha. So Usha, So Usha was, with these big kings' palaces and everything, the women of the house are protected, and they are not even exposed to the outside world. This was the situation in the Vedic times. Even in normal families, the women very rarely used to go out. But especially in a royal family, they would be like in a sanctum within the palace, and that was only only very few people were allowed to go there, and that's where the women would stay, protected from the outside world like that. They would only be allowed out for certain days for prayers and stuff like that. Only not all days, but sometimes in the morning they go to prayer. But again, they go with the soldiers, protected from all directions. So this Usha was obviously in that inner sanctum of the palace, and then she was getting sort of like to a marriageable age, and she was thinking, like, I don't meet anybody outside. How will I ever marry? Who will I marry? And one time she was praying to Mother Parvati, and Mother Parvati said to her that whoever you get in your dream, that person will be your husband. So in that night, she dreamt of this wonderful personality, very, very handsome person. And this dream was recurring. She kept dreaming this dream again and again. And she knew that this was my husband because Parvati Mata had said that. And one time in the afternoon, she was taking a nap, and her thought there was sort of other companions were around there, and she was taking a nap. And in that nap, she got that dream, and then she started to talk aloud, like, "Oh, I really miss you. Please, please don't go. I miss you." Everything. Then suddenly, when she woke, she realized that she was talking in her dream, talking loudly, and she felt very, very shameful because everybody was laughing and they were saying, "Who is it? Who is it you're talking to?" She didn't say. And then one of her closest friends was one of her maidservants called Chitralekha. Because Chitralekha had sort of mystic powers to draw. Chitralekha was the name, Chitra, right? So she said, "Okay, I will draw the faces of all the famous princes around, and you can tell me whether it is him or not." Because Usha was saying that I don't know this person. I know him by face, but I don't know who it is. And then this Chitralekha kept drawing different faces, different princes. No, this one, not this one, not this one. And then finally, she draws the picture of Aniruddha. Aniruddha, son of Krishna. And as soon as she drew that picture, Usha became very shy. So then Chitralekha realized that this was the one. And then what she did with her special powers, she arranged to kidnap Aniruddha and brought him to this inner sanctum of the palace. And then Aniruddha was there, and Aniruddha and Usha were spending time together. And then one time, because there were guards, of course, surrounding, and there were some signs of things not being quite right. So the guards, there was these female guards who realized that there seems to be some man here. We can't see him, but he's there. So he says, if the king finds out, he'll kill all of us. So we better go and tell him there's something going on here. So they went and told the king. The king came, and he found Aniruddha there. And there was a big fight. First of all, the king sent the soldiers. Aniruddha was very, very strong, of course, Krishna's son. So Aniruddha beat all the soldiers. Then the king, Banasura himself, came with his 1,000 arms. He had some magic ropes, and then he tied Aniruddha to a pole and kept him a servant like that, kept him like a prisoner. And then Krishna got the news. Narad Muni somehow found out, and he told Krishna that Aniruddha is in this situation. So Krishna then went with an army and attacked Shonitpur. And of course, Banasura was very powerful. He had a powerful army as well. But Krishna, of course, defeated the army. Then there was a one-to-one fight with Banasura. So when he was about to be killed, Lord Shiva appeared. And Lord Shiva started to fight on behalf of Banasura. So there was a huge fight that ensued between Lord Shiva and Krishna. But of course, in the end, Lord Krishna won. So Lord Shiva admitted defeat, and he said that, look, I have given my promise to Banasura that I will protect him and his city. So please don't kill him. So Lord Krishna then cuts off. He says, okay, I will not kill him, but I'll cut off 998 arms. So he's only left with 2 normal arms. Because of his pride, I'll cut all his arms off, but I will not kill him, and I will not take over your city or do anything. And that way, there he protected the promise given by Lord Shiva to Banasura. So like that, Krishna does that many times. Continuing in the purport, Prabhupada says, as we have discussed more than once, one should not be puffed up by borrowed plumes. All energies and powers are derived from the Supreme Source, Lord Krishna, and they act as long as he desires and cease to function as soon as he withdraws. So plume. Can anybody say what a plume means? Plume. Prabhupada uses these amazing words, right? Sometimes we need to look up a dictionary. So a plume is like a feather. So even a single feather, a bunch of feathers is called a plume. But the plume in this case is a nice decoration of like, for example, when the peacock does the kara, like there's a plume. That's called a plume of feathers, the peacock. So it says that borrowed plumes. So this comes from a saying in English where a bird that is not a peacock would find a few of peacock feathers and put it on himself and pretend to be a peacock. That's called borrowed plumes. So the example is given that to make a show. So even human beings are sometimes you be there normally you pretend to be bigger than you are. Or I'm in charge of this and I'm this, whatever. Then that is like, then you are sort of borrowed plumes, which means you're not really that person, but you're borrowing somebody's plumes like that. Yeah. To claim honor that doesn't belong to you. Like that's the meaning of that. So Prabhupada says one should not be puffed up by that. And that, of course, is explained that whatever we do, we're not doing anything. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham. The spirit soul, belittled by the influence of false ego, thinks himself a doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of nature. So, yeah, everything that's happening to us is because of the modes of nature, and the modes of nature are ultimately controlled by the Lord. So, in that sense, everything that's happening to us is happening because of the Lord. If the Lord wishes, as Prabhupada says in this line here, everything will happen. If the Lord decides to take away that, everything will stop. And that's the key of this purport, that how the Supreme Lord made Arjuna so powerful that he was a Maharathi. He could defeat thousands of soldiers at a time. And he did do that in the Battle of Kurukshetra. But then when the Lord decided to withdraw that power because he no longer needed it now, then he was completely reduced to be defeated by cowardly. So I put down something here for the purport, but we will not go into it in the interest of time. Benedictions awarded by the demigods ultimately from Krishna alone. So we may be very powerful, we become very powerful in the material world by getting benedictions from Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, like we saw the examples of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, like that, and also Banasura. But in 722, Krishna says that Satya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasya Radhana Vihate Labate Cha Tatah Kaman Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan. Endowed with such faith, so he's talking about people who worship demigods. Endowed with such faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So the Prabhupada explains the same thing in more detail. That everything that demigods are awarding to us, they cannot do it without the permission of Supreme Lord. This is something that we must keep in mind. In a moment's time, such energies can be generated or withdrawn by the supreme will of the Lord. So some examples some mundane examples that I came through, that was, anybody know who that is? It's not spiritual. Saddam Hussein, exactly. Saddam Hussein, he was so powerful. The picture on the left, he was so powerful that when some dignitaries from different countries used to go and see him, it was explained that they would shake when they were in front of him. That's what power. He was a terror. He was a terror. He killed so many people. He would have that kind of aura about him. People would be scared of him. But then look what happened to him when he was toppled over. When Krishna decided to take his power away, he was then just held down by this American soldier, and he was, just treated like a street dog. So he is a powerful one. This when the Lord gave him the power, here's when the Lord withdrawn it. And who is this?
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, exactly. Muhammad Ali.
clay.
Precious clay. He was so powerful that no boxer could defeat him. And he was also so arrogant, actually. He used to say, I am the king, right? I am the king. Nobody can touch me. He used to have a particular slogan. He used to say, I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And he made so many statements, like arrogant statements like that. And then look what happened to him. He got some neurodegenerative disease.
I think dementia.
Sorry?
Yeah, dementia.
Dementia, and yeah, exactly. And he couldn't even physically also, he couldn't remember things, he couldn't do things, he couldn't lift, he couldn't even speak, actually. He couldn't put a few words together. I heard one of his last interviews. I heard one
Prabhuji, he had Parkinson's disease.
Parkinson, was it? Yeah, okay, yeah. So there was Parkinson and all that. But you can see then the Lord made him so powerful, but the Lord then made him also with the diseases and everything. Like I say, I was listening to one of his last interviews, and he was stuttering so much, couldn't even speak properly. So this is examples of how we must understand that it is the power of the Lord, and when it withdraws it, it's gone. Human civilization and all activities thereof must be dovetailed with the supreme blessings of the Lord. And without this blessing, all advancement of human civilization is like a decoration of a dead body. He writes to Rajaram in 968. The point should be, this is Prabhupada writing here, this point should be clearly discussed, that without God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, any attempt of human civilization, so-called philosophical or political or economical or labor, they are all zeros. Any civilization devoid of God consciousness or Krishna consciousness is no civilization at all. It's simply a polished type of animal society. So if we are not Krishna conscious, if we are not spiritual, then it's just like being an animal. In the Hitopanishad, there's a beautiful verse, Ahara nidra bhaya maithunam cha samanyam etat pashubhi naranam dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharme nahina pashubhi samana. So ahara nidra bhaya maithun. So ahar, eating, nidra, sleeping, bhaya, defending, maithun, procreating. These four things every living entity does. An ant does this, an elephant does this, and a human being does this. So it says samanam etat pashubhi samanaranam. So that means this is samanam. This is equal. This is similar activities, pashu and nara. But dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesha. Dharma is the only thing that is adhika, that is different. And so vishesha, and it's unique, right? More and unique, adhiko and unique. And dharmena hina pashubhi samana. So without religion or without spirituality, then a human being is no more than a pashu, as is Prabhupada explaining here. So much useless labor. I was going to say later, it's 8:45. Shall I continue for a few more minutes? Or a few more things to say?
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
Please continue.
Okay. All right. So we'll see how far I go. So it is so for many places Prabhupada says so much useless labor, because everything that we're doing, if you're not connecting into Krishna, it is all useless labor. So in 1-8 Bhagavatam, Dharma sunustita pamsham vishvakshena kathasuya notpadya yadi ratin brahma eva hi kevalam. So the occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the Supreme Lord. So you see, we all have our duties. We all have duties as parents, as employees, or even as an employer, whichever way. There's so many duties we have. And we may be performing those duties diligently and really well. But all of them come to zero if they're not connected to Krishna. Somehow we must. Doesn't matter what we're doing, we must try and connect everything that we do to Krishna. Dharmena here, so it's Vishvakshena Katasi. Vishvakshena is another name of Krishna. So no utpadye, which is, these are two words, no utpadye. Utpad means to emerge, utpad, or to come out. So utpad, not padye is two words, na utpadye. Yadi, if it doesn't, bring you the attraction for the message of Krishna, then it is shrama eva hi kevalam, only useless labor. Then this is moving on to the next verse, 22-23. I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all became intoxicated. Oh, this is the talking, yeah, with the wine and made putrefied rice and fought amongst themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. This is a pastime, of course. We know that the Yadus, they got so cheeky. One time they were teasing the sages, and they were cursed. So long story, but just cut short. In the end, they cursed them that you would kill each other by fighting, and then they did that. They actually got intoxicated, and they literally didn't even recognize each other, and they finished themselves off. But as we know, that this is all again a pastime. When Krishna was winding up his pastimes, he did not want to leave the Yadus behind. That was the main point. His idea was that all of them should be taken up back because they had finished their purpose. Then you take it back, because if they were left there, being the family of Krishna, they would be so powerful that they may even misuse their power later. So the best thing was to take them back. So this was it. So intoxication, they got intoxicated, and this is how they did this. Intoxication is two types. There's gross intoxication, and there's a subtle intoxication. So the gross intoxication, we know we can have a few bottles of wine or whiskey or whatever somebody's choice is, and you get drunk like that, and then you lose your senses, and you can do really silly things. But there's subtle intoxications also. You can be intoxicated by your wealth. We know that many times. You see some wealthy people are so intoxicated that they don't respect anybody else. Then people get intoxicated by their knowledge, because I'm so learned, I don't care for anybody else. Looks, people get intoxicated because they're very good looking. Strength is an intoxication, and being famous is also intoxication. So these are subtle intoxications that we also need to be careful about. And of course, renunciation is also, this is strange, isn't it? Because when you renounce, even that could make you proud, and that could make you intoxicated. But look, and when sometimes we do this also subtly, without realizing. I would say to somebody, or my family members who are not followers of ISKCON, they will sometimes sort of say, well, what time do you wake up? And I say, I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and this, and then wow. And I feel proud. I feel proud that I'm able to do that while they are not able to do that. And that is intoxication of being renounced. So yes, we need to be also careful about that. So that's it. I think this is all I have. Hare Krishna. Requests, any comments, any realizations, any corrections? All good so far?
Hare Krishna, Mukunda, Hare Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. I just want to know, where do you get these stories? The stories you put. Well, where is it in anywhere?
Yeah, the Banasura story I read actually. It was in the Bhagavatam, in brief. But then when I got interested in it and I looked up and researched it, this was a few years ago, when I was reading the Bhagavatam in detail. But then, yeah, so when in times like this, it does come back. And I must admit, there are probably some details I've forgotten over time. But yeah, at least I think I remember the crux of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, it's all good. Then we can call it a day. Thank you so much for attending. Vancha kalpat satarubhya kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Prabhupada ki
Krishna.
jai. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Thank you,
Class.
Prabhuji, for wonderful
Thank
Hare
class.
you.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Bo.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Very good class. Thank you.